I thought my 30th birthday would be special. My husband promised me the perfect party, but when his family showed up, they turned my celebration into a nightmare. What happened next shocked everyone in that room, including me. This is the story of how one birthday changed everything. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let me tell you about the birthday party that changed my life forever. My name is Jenny, and 3 years ago, I married what I thought was the man of my dreams. Kevin came from money. The kind of family that had portraits in their hallway and servants who knew exactly how much cream to put in your coffee without asking. I, on the other hand, grew up in a small apartment above my mom's flower shop. We weren't poor, but we definitely weren't rich either. And Kevin's family never let me forget it. When Kevin proposed, I was over the moon. He was charming, successful, and he made me feel like I was the most important person in his world. But that feeling started to fade pretty quickly once I met his family. His mother, Carol, had this way of looking at me like I was a stain on her expensive carpet. His sister Amanda would smile sweetly while making comments that cut like glass. And don't even get me started on the rest of them. But Kevin always reassured me. "They just need time to get to know you," he'd say. "You're amazing, and they'll see that eventually." I held on to those words like a lifeline, believing that love would be enough to bridge the gap between our worlds. So when my 30th birthday was approaching, Kevin promised me something special. "Just close family," he said, kissing my forehead. "Something intimate and perfect, just for you." I was so excited. Maybe this would be the moment his family finally accepted me. Maybe they'd see how much Kevin loved me and realize I wasn't going anywhere. The morning of my birthday, I spent hours getting ready. I wore a beautiful red dress that Kevin had bought me for our anniversary. I did my hair in soft waves, and I even splurged on professional makeup. I wanted to look perfect. I wanted to belong. Kevin had decorated our living room with white and gold balloons, and I'd spent the entire previous day cooking. I made all of Kevin's favorite foods, thinking his family might appreciate the effort. There was homemade lasagna, garlic bread from scratch, and a chocolate cake that took me 4 hours to perfect. Everything looked beautiful, and for a moment, I felt hopeful. Then the doorbell rang. Carol walked in first, and I immediately knew something was wrong. Instead of the warm hug I was hoping for, she gave me one of those air kisses that rich people do when they don't actually want to touch you. "Happy birthday, dear," she said, but her eyes were already scanning the room with disapproval. Behind her came Amanda, dressed in a designer outfit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "Oh, how cozy," Amanda said, looking around our living room like she'd never seen regular furniture before. "Did you do all this yourself, Jenny?" The way she said it made it sound like a bad thing. More family members started arriving. Kevin's Uncle Paul, his Aunt Margaret, his cousin Jessica, and a few others I barely knew. Soon our small living room was packed with people who all seemed to be speaking a language I didn't understand. Not literally, of course, but they had this way of communicating with looks and subtle comments that made me feel like an outsider in my own home. I tried to be the perfect hostess. I offered drinks, made sure everyone had enough food, and smiled until my cheeks hurt. But with every passing minute, I could feel their judgment settling over me like a heavy blanket. I heard Carol whisper to Margaret about the store-bought decorations, and Amanda mentioned to Jessica how some people just don't know how to entertain properly. The worst part was Kevin. My husband, the man who was supposed to be my partner, my protector, was nowhere to be seen when it mattered. He laughed at his uncle's jokes, nodded along with his mother's comments, and seemed completely oblivious to the fact that his family was slowly picking me apart. Then came the gifts. "Present time," Amanda announced cheerfully, and everyone gathered around our coffee table. I sat down, trying to maintain my smile, while Kevin positioned himself behind me with his hands on my shoulders. For a moment, I felt supported, protected. Carol went first. She handed me a beautifully wrapped box with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I thought this might be helpful for you, dear," she said. Inside was a cookbook titled Cooking for Beginners, Simple Meals for the Modern Wife. The note inside read, "Thought you might want to expand your repertoire. Love, Carol." The pause before repertoire felt deliberate, like she was choosing her words carefully. My face burned, but I managed to say, "Thank you." Kevin squeezed my shoulders, but he didn't say anything. Not a word. Amanda was next. Her gift was even more pointed, a voucher for etiquette classes. "I know how important it is to feel confident in social situations," she said sweetly. "These classes are supposed to be amazing for people who want to improve themselves." Again, that loaded pause. The gifts kept coming, each one more insulting than the last. Uncle Paul gave me a book about marrying up, with a wink. Aunt Margaret presented me with a gift certificate for appropriate dinner party attire. Cousin Jessica handed me a self-help book about finding your place in high society. With each gift, I felt myself shrinking. These weren't presents. They were messages. Messages that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't belong, that I needed to be fixed. And through it all, Kevin said nothing. He just stood behind me, his hands on my shoulders, while his family systematically tore me down. Then Uncle Paul decided to give a toast. He stood up, raising his wine glass, and cleared his throat. "I'd like to say a few words about our dear Jenny on her special day," he began. The room fell silent. You know, it's not every day that someone gets the opportunity to, how should I put this, elevate their station in life. He chuckled, and a few other family members joined in. Some people are born into society, and others have to learn as they go. But that's what makes life interesting, doesn't it? When people from different worlds collide. I felt Kevin's hands tighten on my shoulders, and for a moment, I thought he was going to say something. I thought he was going to stand up for me. Instead, he just stood there, letting his uncle humiliate me in front of everyone. The conversation after the toast was even worse. They started talking about me like I wasn't even there. Carol mentioned how difficult it must be for Kevin to navigate the cultural differences in our marriage. Amanda wondered aloud if I was comfortable at the country club events Kevin had to attend for work. Margaret suggested that maybe I should consider taking some classes to better understand their world. I sat there, listening to them dissect my worthiness like I was some kind of specimen in a lab. And Kevin? Kevin just nodded along, occasionally laughing at their jokes, never once standing up for the woman he claimed to love. The breaking point came when Carol, emboldened by the wine and the group's agreement, looked directly at Kevin and said, "Honey, you know I love you, but maybe it's time to reconsider your life choices. You're still young. It's not too late to find someone more suitable." The room went dead silent. Everyone was staring at Kevin, waiting to see what he would do. I was staring at him too, my heart pounding, desperately hoping that this would be the moment he finally defended me. But instead, Kevin looked down at me with an expression I'd never seen before. It was disappointment mixed with something that looked almost like agreement. "You know what?" he said quietly, and my blood turned to ice. "Maybe you're right." I felt like I'd been slapped. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everyone was staring at us now, sensing that something major was happening. Kevin stepped away from me, running his hand through his hair. "I've been thinking about this for a while," he continued, his voice getting stronger. "We are really different, Jenny. Maybe too different. I thought love would be enough, but..." He gestured around the room. "Look at tonight. You don't fit in with my family. You don't understand our world. Maybe it's time we both admitted that this isn't working." I couldn't breathe. My husband, the man I'd trusted with my heart, was agreeing with his family's assessment that I wasn't good enough for him, in front of everyone, on my birthday. Carol was practically glowing with satisfaction. Amanda had this smug little smile on her face. Uncle Paul was nodding like Kevin had just made the most sensible decision in the world. They were all looking at me with a mixture of pity and triumph, waiting to see if I would break down and cry. But something strange happened in that moment. Instead of falling apart, I felt something else entirely. It was like a switch flipped inside me, and suddenly I wasn't the scared, insecure woman who'd been trying so hard to please these people. I was angry, but more than that, I was done. I stood up slowly, smoothing down my red dress. The room was still silent, everyone watching me with anticipation. They expected me to crumble. They expected me to beg Kevin to reconsider or to run out of the room crying. They wanted to see me broken. Instead, I walked over to the side table where I kept my purse and pulled out a manila folder I'd been carrying around for weeks. The folder that contained papers I'd hoped I'd never have to use. "You know what's funny?" I said, my voice steady and calm. Everyone was staring at me now, confused by my composure. "You all think you know so much about me. You think I'm some poor little girl who got lucky when Kevin decided to marry me. You think I need your approval, your acceptance, your validation." I opened the folder and pulled out the first set of documents. But here's what you don't know. For the past year and a half, I've been building my own business, an online consulting company that helps small businesses develop their marketing strategies. Carol frowned. "What are you talking about, dear?" I smiled, and it felt genuine for the first time all evening. "I'm talking about the fact that my little business, the one I've been working on while Kevin was at his fancy job and you were all judging me for not being born into money, made over $200,000 last year." The room went dead silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. This time I had their attention. "That's right," I continued, pulling out more papers. $200,000, and this year? We're on track for $500,000. I looked directly at Carol. "Funny thing about money, it doesn't care where you come from. It only cares about the value you provide." Kevin was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "Jenny, what are you—" "I'm not finished," I said calmly. "You see, Kevin, while you were busy being ashamed of me, I was busy building something. Something that's mine. Something that has nothing to do with your family's old money or your country club connections." I pulled out another set of papers. "These are divorce papers. I've already consulted with a lawyer and I know exactly what I'm entitled to. Spoiler alert, it's not much, because I don't need much. I have my own money, my own career, my own future." Amanda looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm completely serious," I said. "I'm serious about the fact that I've spent 3 years trying to earn the approval of people who are never going to give it to me. I'm serious about the fact that I married a man who just agreed with his family that I'm not good enough for him. And I'm most serious about the fact that I'm done." I walked over to Kevin, who was still staring at me in shock. "You want to know the real difference between your world and mine?" I asked. "In my world, when someone you love is being attacked, you defend them. You don't join in. You don't stand there silently while they're being torn apart. You fight for them." Kevin opened his mouth to say something, but I held up my hand. "I'm not saying this to hurt you," I continued. "I'm saying it because it's true. Your family doesn't respect me, and more importantly, neither do you. You just proved that in front of everyone here tonight." I looked around the room at all their shocked faces. "You know what else is funny? You all think money is what makes someone worthy, but real wealth isn't about what your great-grandfather left you in a trust fund. Real wealth is about creating something from nothing, building something with your own hands, having the strength to stand on your own." I picked up the divorce papers and handed them to Kevin. "I don't need your money. I don't need your family's approval, and I sure as hell don't need a husband who thinks I'm not good enough for him." Carol found her voice first. "Now see here, young lady." "No," I said firmly. "I'm not a young lady to you anymore. I'm not your son's wife anymore. I'm a successful businesswoman who's about to be very happily divorced." I gathered up my papers and put them back in the folder. The room was so quiet you could hear everyone breathing. "Oh, and one more thing," I said, turning back to face them all. "That cookbook you gave me, Carol? I actually don't need it. I've been cooking for myself since I was 12 years old, when my mom was working double shifts to pay our rent. That etiquette book, Amanda? I've been running client meetings with CEOs and handling million-dollar deals. Turns out, treating people with respect is the only etiquette that actually matters. I walked to the front door, then turned back one last time. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. "Thank you for showing me exactly who you all really are. And thank you for showing me that I'm stronger than I ever thought I was." Kevin finally found his voice. "Jenny, wait. Please, can we talk about this?" I looked at him, really looked at him, for what I knew would be the last time. "There's nothing to talk about, Kevin. You made your choice tonight. You chose them over me. You chose their approval over your wife. That tells me everything I need to know." I opened the door and stepped outside into the cool night air. Behind me, I could hear the chaos starting, voices raised, arguing, blame being thrown around. But I didn't look back. As I walked away from that house, away from those people, away from a life that was never really mine, I felt something I hadn't felt in 3 years. I felt free. The next few months weren't easy, but they were honest. Kevin tried to reconcile, of course. He sent flowers, wrote letters, even showed up at my new apartment a few times, but I was done. I'd seen who he really was when the pressure was on, and I couldn't unsee it. My business continued to grow. Turns out, when you're not spending all your energy trying to please people who will never be pleased, you have a lot more focus for the things that actually matter. I hired my first employee, then my second, then my third. I moved into a beautiful office space downtown. I started dating again, this time men who valued me for who I was, not who they thought I should become. And you know what the best part was? I never had to pretend to be someone else again. I never had to smile through another insult or laugh at another joke at my expense. I never had to watch the person who was supposed to love me fail to defend me. That birthday party was the worst night of my life, but it was also the most important, because sometimes you need to hit rock bottom to realize that the only way out is up. Sometimes you need to see exactly how little you're valued to understand how much you're really worth. Carol was right about one thing. It's never too late to reconsider your life choices. I reconsidered mine, and I chose myself. I chose my worth. I chose my future, and I've never looked back. Jenny's story shows us that we should never let anyone make us feel less than we are. If this story inspired you, please like this video and subscribe for more incredible true stories. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself like Jenny did? And remember, you are worthy of respect, no matter what anyone else thinks. I'll see you in the next video.